We're live. Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for coming out. Welcome to Blizzcon 2017, Day 2. This is the Living Blizzard Pursuing Your Passion panel. Today we'll be diving into the world of content creation and be talking about how you can turn your hobby into a career. So, I should breathe, right? That's a good idea. For those of you who don't know, my name is Panzer. I have been making YouTube videos about World of Warcraft and other Blizzard games for almost 10 years now, and it has brought me to many amazing places like BlizzCon. I'm sure you guys are familiar with our panelists up here. First up, we have Garrett Weinzierl. You are a host of several podcasts, correct? You do The Angry Chicken, yep. Into the Nexus, and Frazeroth.
That I do.
Yeah, telling everybody how to keep up on World of Warcraft, Heroes of the Storm, and Hearthstone. And before that, you were a graphic designer.
That I was, and still kind of am a little bit.
A little bit? You dabble? Next to Garrett, we have Sean Plott, or as many of you may know him, Day 9. Oh, look at those claps.
You should have clapped for him, too. Now I feel guilty. That feels weird.
Garrett!
Woo! It's a lot of pressure, man.
Always good when Day 9 says to clap for you.
Amazing. Day 9 is, no, it is my turn.
All right.
Day 9 is one of the most recognizable faces in our community. He commentates and casts esports streams to a massive audience, hosts events, all around good guy. You can clap if you want again. You don't have to.
Please clap.
Next up we have Bloodshed, who is a community-oriented content creator. He makes YouTube videos and he streams on Twitch. Most of what he does is about Diablo, and you do stuff for everybody. If you're brand new or a seasoned veteran, there's something for you. I'm sure you guys all know Ann Munition. She is a partnered yeah, that's right. Woo! Woo! Ann is a partnered broadcaster on Twitch. She's been streaming full-time for about 3 years now, does a huge variety of games, but a lot of times when you tune into her channel, you're going to see some justice raining from above.
Yeah. Clapping for myself now. I'm just clapping for everyone now.
We're just going to continuously clap for an hour.
Perfect. And of course, all the way at the end there, we have the mayor of Value Town himself, Trump. Woo! Over the past 7 years, Trump has streamed nearly every single Blizzard game, starting off with StarCraft 2, then he moved on to Diablo, World of Warcraft, Overwatch, and of course, Hearthstone. Trump is known for being a very high-level Hearthstone player who is very community-oriented and focuses on informational broadcasting, and even won Blizzard's award for Most Educational Streamer.
Yeah.
An award-winning streamer. That's pretty great.
So now that we're all familiar with each other, let's get right into our first question. How would you guys explain what you do to somebody who just has no idea what the internet is, no idea what Twitch, YouTube, internet video, like what would you describe your job as?
Oh, I mean, if I meet him in an elevator, I'd just say graphic designer and move on.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah,
I get
it. For podcasting, it's a lot of times, I mean, the shorthand is, it's like radio, but about really niche topics and on demand when you want to listen to it.
All right.
I pitch it really hard. Even the guy at the coffee shop I go to, I'm like, so there's this thing called Twitch, and there's esports, and I like to make shows about strategy and games and so on. But, I mean, for the most part, it's really just making entertainment content around video games. And that translates really well, because there's just not that much of that on traditional television. So they just go, oh, okay, that must just live on the internet. Cool. And that tends to connect pretty quickly.
That's crazy, because it's getting there now, though.
Yeah.
It's getting there. How about you, Bloodshed?
It's hard. It's a tough question. What I do is I just say, you know how people tune into like football games or basketball games because they're interested in the genre or getting better. They tune in to people like me because they maybe want to learn or be part of a community, and it's like a live event. So.
Yeah, I tell people that I play video games for a live audience, and then they're like, oh, you're a competitive gamer, you're really good. No, not good. People just laugh at me or with me sometimes.
Well, the good news is now everyone pretty much knows what YouTube is, so I generally say I'm a YouTube broadcaster, put out videos there, but also I mention, hey, I also do it live on Twitch.
All right. So how did you guys get started making content for Blizzard games? Like, what was your big break, your big moment?
I would just make videos because I was passionate about Diablo to try to help people out. And one of the videos took off, and more people asked for it. I got a lot of comments, people messaging me, can you do this? Can I make a video about this and this? And it kind of just, here we are, just kind of spiraled.
That's so much nicer than mine. I bribed my friend with the StarCraft 2 beta key. I got into the beta and you got one like recruit a friend code, and I called my buddy Kyle and I'm like, hey, I really want to do a podcast. I know you like StarCraft. I have this code, but you have to get in front of a microphone on Skype with me once a week.
Not a bad deal.
I'm actually curious if any of you like deliberately did this, because for me it was totally accidental. Like the description of the Day 9 Daily sounds really bad. Okay, it's 2009. We're going to do just Brood War content. We're only going to talk about strategy at a high level. That's it. We're going to do it 5 days a week. And then like a year later, it suddenly became possible to make money. And I was like, all right, this is my job done. Cool, great, nice. I don't know if like you planned any of this.
No.
I don't know if
I actually I felt like I had to fight to get into the Overwatch beta, which I didn't get into the Overwatch beta until like maybe a month or so before it released, when like all the other streamers were playing it since like, a year ago, and I was just like, please, Blizzard, I want to play so bad. I will hype your game. I'm your girl. And it took so long that I couldn't get into it. And then for my like shining moment, I guess, was I was the first streamer that they put on the Battle.net launcher when Overwatch released, and that was like a huge Kodak moment for me that I was like, okay, cool, I made it.
Kind of like Garrett as well as Ann, I got my start in StarCraft 2 beta, so I actually wrote an essay in one of the contest things on, hey, this is why I should get into StarCraft 2 beta, and that's why my username TrumpSC actually started off with, because I started 7 years ago with the initial launch of StarCraft 2. Since then, that's where I got my launch, but I also have always been playing Blizzard games the moment they've been released, or even before in general in the beta to get a head start. So that's been great.
Yeah. You had asked if anybody did this deliberately. I don't even think people made money on YouTube when I started. I don't think that was a thing at all. I had 100,000 subscribers before it was partnered.
Yeah, when I started streaming, you had to pay to stream. It was like right around the time that StarCraft 2 came out. It was like huge for just the entire industry because you could make money. You didn't have to pay like $30 a month.
Wow.
And even then they like capped how much you could stream.
So if someone wanted to get into streaming now, what kind of advice would you give them? What are some best practices in content creation?
Okay.
Go.
Listen, I feel so strongly about this, okay? Make actual content. Make a show with a topic that has a focus, because then people can discover you and find you. Because if you're like the 100th Overwatch streamer, how does anyone even
Look, Sean,
understand?
I'm sitting right here, okay? I can hear you.
Well, see, I mean, like, if you want to get found, if you want to build that initial audience, there needs to be some clear way that people can describe what your content is, to be able to discover it. Like, if you are really, really, really into some really niche arcade mode in StarCraft 2, and you start covering StarCraft 2 arcade, all of a sudden it's very easy to describe you in contrast to something like Tastosis that does the GSL. And that is like so, so important. I think that's the biggest mistake I see, is someone just going, I'm just going to go live, and an audience will happen. Wow.
I think that it's really important, because we already talked about our elevator pitch, but what's more important than being able to explain what you do or sell yourself to random people you meet out in the world is sell yourself to your audience on Twitch or iTunes or YouTube, wherever it is.
And have them be able to pitch to each other.
Yeah.
Touching on best practices, one thing that I did since the beginning was I would go back and watch my own streams, like how you go back and watch your golf swing, and I would see where things went really well and then where things didn't go so well, and you can kind of learn from your own mistakes.
Oh, you're a braver person than I am. I just
Yeah, that's
pretend my
hard.
old videos don't exist.
Don't
watch them.
On that, the advice I always give is consistency. Whatever you're going to do, be consistent with it, whether it is once a week, once a day. When you're getting started, when you're just starting out, your audience, as you start picking them up, they need to know when they can come back to find you doing it again, and they'll start to set a habit of downloading your podcast, checking back on your YouTube, tuning into your Twitch stream, because whatever works for you, whether it's Tuesday at 4 p.m., as long as every Tuesday at 4 p.m. you're doing it no matter what else is happening. Even if you're not making money yet, you need to treat it like a job.
Yeah, I think being consistent, but then also being willing to adapt and evolve. Like, as human beings, we're always evolving, and I think your channel could kind of be the same. Like, I started off as a PG Minecraft-only streamer. That was all I did every day, was I just played Minecraft. And that's how I got started, because I wanted to learn how to like play Minecraft mods and stuff, and I didn't know anything about it, so I just kind of started streaming and learning from my community. And then I kind of started working in like Skyrim and started working in like other stuff, and now here I am, and I swear a lot, and I play a lot of games that make me swear a lot, like Overwatch. So, just be willing to change.
Yeah, like Day9 said, it's really good to have a plan going in, to have some sort of really specific content. Like he said that when he was starting out, he had a very specific, all right, I'm going to make a strategy-based show. And I'm going to be a really big proponent of planning later on. But at the same time, in this case, it's just as easy as it's more focused towards what Garrett is. You just want to start, and then you want to have a really consistent schedule. That's step one. That's the #1 best practice. Start, and then keep going consistently.
Yeah, because honestly, no one's going to watch your stuff at first. I was like pumped when I broke 50 viewers. I was like, yeah. I'm so famous.
I mean, to be fair, there are people who stream full time that have like 50 or 100 viewers.
Yeah.
If you have a good audience, you can do a lot with a little. But the only thing that I would add to you guys' commentary is make content that you would want to watch. A lot of times you see new streamers and new YouTubers come out and they say things like, guys, what kind of videos do you want to see? They don't know, they're the audience, not the creator. So make the type of content you would want to watch, have fun doing it, and the rest will kind of come after that.
It's one of my favorite Henry Ford quotes, the guy who Ford Motor Company, who said, if I had asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. Because they can't conceive of, a car that has wheels and goes. So it's like, if you ask your viewers what they want, like, they might not know, and you might have like some cool ideas.
Oh, I love that. I've never heard that before. I love that.
And frankly, all audience advice is you should only ever stream. Don't sleep, play all the games I play, stream it. I want to see that. You didn't finish that game. When's that getting finished?
That's right. Sleep is for the weak. Sleep is for the weak. So obviously we're here at BlizzCon, which is celebrating Blizzard games, but I think a bigger part of it is celebrating the Blizzard community. And as a streamer or a YouTuber, a content creator, you sort of built your own communities. And how have you guys sort of built that up and grown it and managed your communities?
I think it's important to champion people within your own community and make them leaders, and then they kind of share your vision, and then that creates a culture based around your stream. I think it's important.
We include it in our show. We every week, whatever podcast I'm doing, we have an email section, or we also pull questions in from the Twitter, and it's part of the content that we make. And we still use things like Reddit. We still use Twitter quite a bit to keep in touch, but I find it a lot more fun to make it part of the show.
I want to echo something Trump said about having a plan. What sort of community do you want? And once you've done that, how can you reflect that in the content you're making? Because I'm a huge believer that the community tends to very strongly mirror what the content is and tends to attract that sort of person. I mean, a lot of times in the early StarCraft shows, I would not even be looking at chat and not even be interacting with chat in a super regular manner because I was really focused on delivering and talking about the strategy. And as a result, the conversation there wound up being heavily steered towards that. The chat would be talking about different ideas and different strategies and, excuse me, and at the end of the show, I'd do a Q&A, so people would always be trying to prepare questions for that, and that helped really sculpt a really nice, lovely community because people always love to joke about how Twitch chats are just monsters and they're just copy-pasting huge, walls of text and whatnot. But,
Don't you love that, though? Don't you love when that happens? Isn't that your favorite thing?
It does not really happen in my chat ever, even if sub mode's off. And
off.
It's really great. But I mean, it truly is really nice to have that sort of environment. And just in the same way it's a slow build to grow your numbers, it is a very slow, gradual process to get that really nice, lovely community to look the way you want. And it takes effort and takes time.
I know you're really community-focused, Bloodshed. What do you think?
Sometimes when chat's like, play this build, or like, I guess in Hearthstone, you're playing that wrong, I just I'm like, hey, like, what'd you do last night? Or did you watch the new movie that came out this weekend? And you start to learn more about your community, and it creates a different kind of atmosphere than, you know what I mean? Like you were saying, like, it creates a better conversation sometimes. So it's good to kind of learn more about people instead of just the game all the time, too.
Yeah, I feel like most community members, whoever is there, your audience, trolls aside, because random folks will always come in and just want to burn things down. But like your legitimate audience, they want to hang out. Everyone wants to hang out. So if you create a conducive environment for hanging out, whatever that may be, whether it is asking them about their latest movie or wanting to talk strategy, I think it's relatively easy to cultivate that, as long as you don't get too combative, which I'm actually kind of bad at.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that the people that you hang out with will have a profound impact on who you are as a person, and that your community is a reflection of you to your peers. So if you have just a terrible, toxic community, they're going to be kind of, wearing your shirts and then being toxic at community, like conventions and that kind of thing, and you don't want that. That's bad advertising for you, of course, if you're trying to stream. So I feel very proud of my community when they'll, be hanging out at conventions, and other streamers will see them, and they'll come up to me later and say, "Oh, I saw some of your viewers and they were really nice." And that's kind of what I want. I actually do. I think it's fun when there's channels that are just copy pasta like crazy. When there's Power Rangers is playing and everyone's just going nuts and all these jokes are coming out of it. That has a place on Twitch. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing, but if you want to be a really community-focused streamer, then you have to kind of have expectations for your community and be willing to be seen as strict. People think that I'm too strict or something that's too far beyond the amount of rules they don't like. But for me, I'm willing to be seen as strict because it's more important to me to have a community that I like to hang out with every day for 8 hours a day.
Me too.
Yeah, there are a lot of ways in how to build a community. So one of the big surprises is in Twitch, you don't actually have to interact that much with the community. You have different types of streamers. You have the type who really communicates with every single viewer. And then you have the type, kind of like Day 9, this is where I got my start as well. I started by posting instructional reviews on videos. So of course, during then, I can't really greet the chatters and be like, "Hey, how was your day? Oh, that's really cool." Instead, I was just like, "Oh, yeah, this guy's building an SCV here. Is that the right choice? I don't know. Yeah, you missed building SCVs from minutes 3 to 4. That misses out on 1,000 minerals somewhere there." So that's the kind of community that I built. I built myself as an educational, informative streamer. And I think your community stance grows from there. I'm known as the mayor of Value Town now because in Hearthstone, I make so many plays that are geared more towards value. So you get a following and you build kind of your own legend, but it's mostly driven by your viewers.
Yeah, there's something that you said that I really like, that you don't have to focus on your chat that much, because I think there's almost a mistaken perception that interaction is good just for interaction's sake. But again, you're trying to make interesting content. And if someone tunes in and you're only doing small talk, it's again, hard to be unique and really stand out in that regard. So I think it's super important to make sure that you're being thoughtful about the content you're creating when you're trying to interact with your community, that you're not weighting too heavily in one direction.
So we've talked a lot about Twitch, and I would just love to hear your perspective, because you do podcasts, so it's a little bit different of a kind of community vibe. And I make YouTube videos, so I stream occasionally, but that's not really where my bulk is too. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
On just community in general?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because we have, again, the mailbag as part of basically every podcast I do, I think without that, it would feel very disconnected. I mean, we do a live.
Is that
Twitch.
viewer write-ins?
Yes.
Okay.
Each podcast has its own email address. We just set up a Gmail. We don't do anything fancy. They can also tweet at us, and before the show every week we go through and we pick a few emails, we pull it in, and that's the end of the show. Basically, we wrap up by pulling in some of the community's thoughts and questions. But it's very easy if you don't do that, and especially if you don't live stream your recording, which we do for most of our shows, but not all of them. It's very easy for it to feel bottled. And you need to actively reach out to your audience, because otherwise they're just download numbers. If you don't give them a way to speak to you, they can't.
Yeah.
Because it's on demand, it's on the download. This isn't it's not interactive unless you make it interactive.
Yeah. I think things like Twitter and Facebook and social media is really important too, because that's where people can kind of see you being you, not your because everybody kind of has a personality that they stream with, whether it's your 100% genuine personality or maybe you filter out bad words or, so I feel like when you see those those candid sort of, I don't know, the things that you just say sometimes, I think that's how people kind of find you a little more relatable.
I should filter out bad words. That way I'll get less calls from my mom about my Twitter.
So this is a good segue. Some of you guys are not just streamers, you also do YouTube and podcasts and stuff like that. How do you think it compares doing content creation on different platforms, and what is the background of that like?
I think it's different. You have different audiences in different areas, but for me it works symbiotic, because you go on Twitch, you get the longer form entertainment, and then I kind of take whatever I learned on streaming, and then I take it to YouTube and condense it down so it's easily digestible. So for me, it works together, and I think Trump does similar. A lot of you guys make sense.
Social media is honestly kind of weird in this day and age because it's so fast. New platforms rise and fall, and I sort of view them as like different legs trying to support the same thing where, let's say YouTube suddenly becomes way more important. There's way more ways to make money. I don't want to not have a presence there. I don't want to devote or focus only on one specific platform. So, as Bloodshy was saying, the idea of I stream on Twitch, and then I also post on YouTube, and then I also try to be very active on Twitter. These will probably change over time. I mean, even last year with Twitch Prime coming out, suddenly Twitch is now a huge platform for content creators in terms of revenue. So just having that awareness and just kind of having
Not
your
putting
arm
all your eggs in
each
one
thing.
basket.
Yeah. I think it's really important just because you have to be flexible. There has never been one clear business model as a profession. I feel like it's changed probably about every 9 to 12 months.
Yeah, kind of geared towards the newer streamer just getting into it, though. You certainly don't have to plan on being all the platforms at the beginning. Just start with one of them. I'd say the big difference is on Twitch. You can just get started. That's probably the easiest place to get started with since you don't have to do any editing. On YouTube, it's probably more about focused on creating a very specific vision for one episode of a show. So you should have a clear beginning, a middle, and an end. Whereas on Twitch, you just go. And then it's for the people who really like to see everything going on right now. They want to see everything.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities between YouTube content and podcast content because at the end of the day, when it's going up there, there is not a live chat room. So if, kind of like what you were saying earlier, Sean, if you're in the middle of your strategy section about whatever it is that you just wrote up and you just keep dropping out of your conversation and be like, oh, hey, so-and-so in the chat room, that's great for the Twitch audience. But if you're if you plan for that to go up on an RSS feed or on YouTube afterwards, it will take that audience completely out of the flow.
Right, that's not to say that that's bad. It's bad for certain types of shows.
Yeah.
But for certain types of streamers, it's really, really good to do that.
Yeah, it depends on the content you're making, I think, at the end of the day. Yeah, hey, we stumbled on it. Content should inform it more than the platform.
Yeah, I think the big difference between Twitch and YouTube for me is that YouTube, you can really plan everything that you do, and you have so many chances to fix things and make them better and tweak them and change them, where Twitch is very raw, it's unfiltered, it's out there, it's happened, you did it. So it's one of those things where if you're someone who's got that type A personality that you want to, be really in charge and in control of what you're doing with your content, YouTube might be the way to go. But if you're someone who just kind of wants to chill and chat and, play games and build a community and be part of something that's live and unfiltered, Twitch might be the way to go. But a lot of times they work really well in tandem together. So when did you guys realize that you could do this as a full-time job?
Oh.
What was your big break, if you had a big break?
Patreon was invented. It was hard for podcasting. There was always traditional advertisers for podcasts, and we only actually just recently kind of broke through that wall. Patreon came before that for our channel, but it really was Patreon. Crowdfunding came out. You had your Kickstarters, your Indiegogos, and if you were an ongoing podcast that didn't work within a structure of a season, you really had to shoehorn to get something like Kickstarter to work for you. And then all of a sudden, Patreon hit the scene, and it's like, oh, we have an opt-in subscription that we can send out to our listeners. And it worked out really well. Obviously, it's not like Patreon came out and we're like, all right, sweet, we have the money, we're quitting our jobs. It was very gradual for me.
Yeah, I was a graphic designer before I started streaming, and I just kind of reached this tipping point where I realized I was only streaming 3 hours a night because that's all I could do after working a full day job. And I kind of reached this tipping point where I was thinking, I'm making enough that I can cover my bills. I'm not making more than I am at my full-time job, but the only way that I will make more streaming is if I don't have this kind of time block where I've got 9 hours a day that I'm at work and I can't stream, and I can only stream at 7 o'clock at night in California, which is already 10 on the East Coast, so it's a really bad time slot to be streaming for what I was trying to do, which was Minecraft at the time, which is like a kid's game. You know, they're all asleep by then. So I reached this point where I was like, okay, well, I gotta take this dive and quit my job and then just go full force into the streaming, and I think it'll go well if I do this. But it was definitely a scary moment. I knew I could pay for my rent and everything, though. I didn't quit before I reached that point, but it was still just
To kind
terrifying.
of touch on what she's saying, you can kind of start to project. So like, I first knew, like, not just when I got my first donation or sub, but like even if you're only streaming 3 hours, you can kind of project what your average, as soon as you get like a bigger sample size, and then make that call for yourself, I think, yeah.
You know, projections are really important. That's why I built an Excel spreadsheet to determine the break point at which I could quit in order to go full-time streaming.
Value.
So it is really important to know
Value.
beforehand whether or not you should make that leap. You know, don't quit your day job is a common phrase. You should not quit your day job unless you're pretty certain, in my opinion. But some people like to take the risk and they just, you know, go for it. And that's fun too if you like taking risks.
You should be pretty certain and very conservative with your data. I know people that like hit 500 subs and they're like, cool, I will therefore always have 500 subs.
Yeah, no.
Because I just hit it today. I quit. I'm doing this full time, because subs obviously go up and down and fluctuate a lot.
I quit my job once, and then I had to go back to work. Yeah, I was working as like a waitress, and I was like, oh, I'm doing really well on YouTube. I'm gonna quit my job. And then like 3 months later, I was like, I guess I'll go work at a game store now because this isn't enough money to live on.
Yeah.
So definitely have a backup plan. Do not.
Yeah.
And you know, we're kind of talking about money, and so I kind of think it's important to touch on, as a new streamer, as somebody who's up and coming, I don't think money should be your focus. It's always good to have goals, but if you're going into any sort of content creation, there's such a degree of luck in this field. Like, no matter how talented and amazing you are and how much people like you, there's still a degree of luck to it. So if you're going into it expecting to make a lot of money, it's not doing it for the right reasons.
And then again, Sean, I mean, earlier you talked about diversifying the platform you use in case one day YouTube is all of a sudden significantly more important than the other.
And I have a story on that later for sure, yeah.
But I think you should also diversify where your monies are coming from. I'm going to be biased in this regard because I still freelance graphic design on the side.
Yeah.
But doing that was what allowed me to take my risk, to jump off and just say bye to my day job, because I think, well, I can always take an extra job here and there if I need to fill a gap from the fluctuation. And I'm not telling all of you to go out and start up a graphic design firm, but chances are if you're a creator, you probably have a skill set that you can get freelance doing, whether it's editing videos, creating overlays, just running somebody's upload to YouTube, which, by the way, I would love someone to do that for me.
Me too. I edited 4 videos yesterday from my hotel room.
Yeah. Oh, that hotel upload speed, isn't it fantastic?
I paid for the good one.
That's my mistake.
Best $18 I ever spent.
You know, you mentioned the idea of if one platform, you know, shifts. I had a real bumpy start. I first started streaming on a site called Mogulus.com that later became Livestream.com. And then that platform was unstable, so I had to move to Ustream.tv. Ooh. And then from there, I went to Justin.tv, which then turned into Twitch TV. And I uploaded all my videos to Blip TV. I don't know if any of you ever tuned into Blip TV. It doesn't exist anymore, I don't think. So it's like that whole source of revenue is just poof, gone, okay, and tried to shift from Blip to YouTube. So there's just a lot of change that's always happening, and part of those projections and part of that thoughtful planning is just trying to be aware of and to account for change. And I like what you said about multiple revenue streams, because there's, excuse me, there's Twitch, there's YouTube, and on Twitch there's donations via bits, and there's subscriptions, and there's advertising revenue, there's hosting gigs, there's sponsorship segments. There's a lot of these different little income streams that...
Merch shops.
Yes, merchandise is another great one. You just kind of have to, as you're growing that audience, slowly kind of plan and try to stabilize among these different things.
Yeah, you have to get crafty. I sold jewelry on Etsy for a little while.
Nice.
Made stuff out of clay. What do you think, Bloodshed?
She asked you what you thought.
Sorry.
Am I on here?
I don't think she heard you. Sorry.
What are your thoughts on this, Bloodshed?
Sorry, I thought you said next question.
No, we have a lot of time, and we don't have very many questions left, so feel free. Be long-winded.
Yeah.
Get your thoughts out there.
What was the question again?
What was the question again?
Coming.
So there's a lot of When did you realize you could go full time? I moved on to the next question. I too forgot the question.
When did I know I can go full time?
Yeah, like what was that like for you?
Oh, that was just when I could project, when I could see my income and I could project it, and I made that decision based off, my cost of living and everything like that.
How long did you guys do this without making money before you started full time? I think that's a question that people don't answer very often.
Well, before I started making money or before I went full time? Because there's definitely a gap there between those two.
Both.
Both, okay. I don't think we started seeing, because when we started we were losing money, like $15 a month on a server cost, basically.
You were upside down.
Yeah, I mean, I was also upside down because of my WoW subscription, but it was probably 3 years before I saw anything at all. Like, we started getting some really early, like, strictly commission-based sponsorships. And then it wasn't for us in the podcast space. It was not until Patreon that we really started making enough where we could even consider doing this as our job.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
Yes. Sick. Oh my God, awesome.
I got partnered on Twitch about a month and a half after I started streaming. So I started making money then, but it was, that was not a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's kind of my fear now, is that they added the affiliate program and there's something like 90,000 affiliates now, which is great, and like congratulations on, for Twitch affiliates, but it worries me the amount of people who are like, yes, I am making money now, and now is my time that I'm just gonna like quit everything that I'm doing and like, drop out of college and all that. And I've talked about before, like, there's a lot of people, I know that there are successful streamers who have dropped out of college to continue streaming, but like, I think it's really important to not only plan for if Twitch goes under, or if YouTube becomes really important, or that kind of thing, but also plan for what happens after. People ask all the time, like, what are you going to do after Twitch? Or like, what if Twitch just suddenly doesn't exist anymore? And I think it's really being in the industry and doing what I'm doing right now, like kind of naturally making friends in companies. Like, I am sponsored by Corsair, so I know a lot of them. I've done a lot of stuff with Blizzard and that kind of thing. You start kind of spreading out and meeting people. And so it's like, if I keep working on my graphic design skills in the background while I'm also streaming, then potentially in the future I could apply for a job, at like Corsair or something.
It's the content creator version of when you go to college, your parents always say, also take a business class. Like, that's the equivalent of that. It's just always have something else.
Yeah, be a Swiss Army knife. Be able to do everything. Yeah.
Because
I'm
in
going to
like
answer
most
this
careers,
one super broadly. So I haven't made money before like I started streaming for maybe 20 years, because you know what? When you're gaming, that's why you really, really want to really love gaming. Pursue your passion, I guess, is the title of this one. You need to have that before you even start streaming. So I was okay, even if I didn't make a cent, perhaps. So you go into streaming with the attitude of, hey, I just really like playing games. And that's, I think, the really basic foundation, because otherwise you're going into what is going to be a full-time job potentially, and you're not going to like what you're doing, and that's just no good. And also, you should go into streaming if you really like playing games. Like, that's a baseline.
Well, and I think viewers can tell the difference between this person is playing video games because they genuinely love to play video games, and this person is playing video games because they think it's a quick way to make money. So I think that the latter is not going to last for a very long time, whereas the former, it's like all of us are people who just like genuinely love to play video games and have since we were like babies. So
it's almost a prerequisite that you just wanted to do this anyways.
Yeah.
Outside of making money. Like, I think I made literally $0 for the first 9 months that I was doing anything, and couldn't go full time until about 2 years. And I always like to say that in a lot of careers, you make money per year. Like, if you're an IT consultant, yeah, you're going to make that salary per year, and maybe it'll go up over time. But in streaming, you make money this year. Or in content creation, you make money this year. There's no guarantee that anyone will care about any of my stuff next year. Like, there's no guarantee about that at all. So.
Yeah. So this is a good segue. Working for yourself is difficult, and then when you add the whole factor of it being in the entertainment industry, that's a whole nother, layer to that sundae. As a content creator, what type of challenges do you have to overcome? What kind of difficulties do you have to mitigate? Because not only are you working for yourself, but you're also adding that whole, you have fans, not employees.
My problem is that I'm a workaholic, which works really well with streaming because I will stay up all hours of the night working on videos until 4 a.m. and then I'll wake up at 7 a.m. and do it again. But I think that is also a big challenge for people because there's this mentality with streaming that you have to be always online, just constantly. And it's like, if I'm not streaming, then there's no forward progress happening, which like maybe you're not gaining followers, but if you're going to conventions and you're meeting businesses and that kind of thing, this can also be considered forward momentum. I think people are really afraid to take time off. It's also really important for your mental health to take time off. Like I was just at TwitchCon 2 weekends ago. I'm here now this weekend. And then right after this, I'm taking like a short vacation to just go do nothing streaming related, which is terrifying as a streamer because I'm just like sub numbers are just tanking. But for my mental health, I'm like, I need to take time away. And it's really hard for me personally to just say like, take a day off. You don't have to work today because every time I'm just like, but my computer is right there. And I do one thing. It's like, just be willing to take time away from it for yourself.
Because your business, it almost feels like your character in an RPG, right? You stream another hour, you get a little bit more numbers, you feel a little bit better, and you're like,
it's addicting.
yeah, but your character, your business and streaming can unlevel every time you're offline. So it's like really, I have the workaholic problem super hard, and I say 3 long days of streams a week, 2 short days, just to make myself not do it. And part of the projections in terms of numbers aren't just to be thoughtful about your future and your career. It's also to set a baseline of sanity. Like anything above this is gravy. It's okay. I don't always have to be growing. I don't always have to be pushing those numbers forward. So I think that's super critical for me, at least.
For me, it's just, it's difficult to turn off. It's difficult to not feel like I'm working because now the majority of what I do is based in video games, which is also what I do for fun. So when I'm working, it's video games, and then when I'm done with the podcast for the day, I'm just like, well, I guess I'll go play some games. But while I'm playing the games, I'm thinking about how the podcast went. I'm thinking about the next podcast. When I'm trying to relax on the couch watching Netflix, it's just like, put the phone down. Don't stop checking Twitter. Leave the phone in the other room. Get your laptop out of there. I don't know. The day I got an office, it got a lot better.
I think you kind of have to be a workaholic to do this. If you are not a self-motivated type A person, I just don't know how you would do it. If you can't find that within yourself, because when you're sitting at home and you're in your pajamas, it can be so easy to just not want to do anything ever.
Well, that's where the passion comes in, because it's like there's so many days when I'm just like, man, I slept 3 hours last night. Like I'm exhausted. I don't really feel like streaming today. But I'll kind of force myself to sit down in front of the camera and like get everything ready. And then once I start and I see everyone just being like, hey, Anne, like, how's it going? And I'm like, all right, this is why I streamed today, because they wanted to see a show, even though maybe I like didn't really feel like it at first. That being just passionate about providing entertainment for people who needed it that day makes me really excited about it.
Because you don't know what they went through. And they may legitimately be looking forward to you putting out your content, whatever it may be.
I remember when one of my first favorite streamers when I first got started was Lyric, who's like one of the biggest streamers on Twitch. And I remember when he first started doing his like Thursday days off, and I was bummed every Thursday because I would get to work and like turn on my computer and get on my graphic design thing, and I was just like, it's Thursday and he's not streaming today. It was just like, but it's good for it's good for everyone to take a day off once in a while.
Yeah, I had a rough time. It was about, I think it was about 2 years before I went full time. I had moved back in with my parents because things weren't going well. And one of my favorite podcast hosts got hired by Blizzard and had to leave the show the same week I moved back in with my parents. And I was like, this is like the worst week of my life. And it really hit me. So, I have to keep reminding myself of that because, especially here at BlizzCon, we finally get to meet the people in our chat room and the people that listen to our podcast. And I've heard multiple times this weekend, like, oh man, you've really helped me through some tough times. And the first few times I ever heard that, I was like, there's just no way. You're just being too nice.
Yeah.
But then I think back to that time I was like moving back in with mom and dad, and Randy left the instance, and that hit me hard.
Yeah, I can't actually stress how much you mean to us, because like, I sit at home all day, right? And like, what Anne said, when I go into chat and I see familiar names, I'm like, hey, hi guys, right? I literally hang out with 2 cats all day. I don't really leave my house.
Yeah.
That, you know, the Twitch community, the YouTube community, it's so, just so wonderful to see you every day, like sincerely.
Yeah.
It's like the big reason, it's the big motivator.
It gives us a lot of inspiration. Like, I'll just look through Twitter and it's like, hey, Blood, what time today? And I'm like, you know, it just kind of gives you energy, and that's what drives me too, is they want to see this content, they want to see your videos, they want to see you online, and it just keeps driving you forward.
Yeah, I mean, we spent a lot of time today talking about monetization, but when you first get started, there is none of that. Your monetization, your fuel is your audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's nothing worse than when you first get started in that first episode, you're not going to get feedback on it. People are not going to tweet at you. You're not going to get an email. You're probably not going to have anyone in your chat room. And that's the bad feeling. So the first second you get someone interacting with what you made, caring enough to share their opinion, whether they agreed or disagreed with you, that lights the fire.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on something that Sean said that about setting kind of baselines for, you know, your goals and that kind of thing. But sometimes it's really just good. Like one of our mutual friends, JP, who's also a streamer and does like YouTube and stuff. When I first got started, I was feeling kind of discouraged, and I was just having this rough patch, and I was like, man, I don't really feel like my channel's growing. And he was like, what you should do is every day just kind of take one positive thing and then just be really excited about that one thing that happened, rather than just being like, well, yesterday I gained 50 followers and today I only gained 20. But instead of focusing on that negative or that decline, just saying like, well, maybe I didn't gain as many followers today, but I did have this really good conversation with this person, and I feel like they're going to come back and be like a really integral part of the community. Or maybe yesterday I gained 5 subs and today I only got 2, but I did gain a lot more followers and my viewership was pretty good. Or I just had really fun playing this game, and just kind of picking one thing to be really excited about if you start feeling like, you know, discouraged.
Yeah, that's like that reminded me of one of my like mantras is you focus on what you get to do as opposed to what you can't do. So every day I get to stream, I get to make videos, I get to make these connections. Yeah, focus on like what you get to do. It's a really positive thing.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. I get to play video games for a living. Woo!
I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I mean, there's so much volatility in the industry. There's so much stuff to keep track of, so many trends. And the big relief from all of that is when you're finally live.
Yeah.
Like, oh, thank God I just get to hang out and play games. Oh, yes. Excellent.
Yeah.
Right, because there's prep before it and there's post after it.
Yeah.
But when you're in it, it's just like, all right, it's go time and let's just party.
Yeah.
But party hopefully with a structure if you're trying to cover a topic.
Oh, yes, structured party.
Structured party. Time to dance, time to drink, time to have some pizza pockets.
So, do you guys have any like specific favorite, like standout content creation or Blizzard gaming moments that resonated with you and your audience?
Does this count?
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm freaking out. Like, this guy was a big fan of for a very long time, and now and there's people in chairs actually listening to me. Like, that's really rad.
You guys showed up at like 10 a.m. during BlizzCon, and like there's so much to see. So I'm just like always,
It's
like
very
the fact that you are sitting here is great.
Yeah. We were back there 40 minutes ago, just like, where's the coffee? Someone give me the coffee.
We were. Trump wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
We made it. It's okay.
Trump got here 8 seconds before we
Yeah.
walked on stage.
It was
Hey,
good.
the mayor of Valuetown's here. Hey.
Just really had to find his shirt with his face on it.
Right.
I'm just jealous I don't have one.
Well, to go back to your question, though, I feel like when I first kind of got started streaming, I would watch people play. Would watch all these streamers and stuff, and like, you know, Summit and Lyric would just get into H1Z1 back then, and it was just like everyone knew who they were, and it was a big deal, and everyone was like really excited to be in the same game as them. And I remember watching that and just thinking like, geez, these guys are actual celebrities. Like, people actually care who they are. They're really stoked to be in the same game as them. And then when I was on the Battle.net launcher, it's like after that now, maybe every other Overwatch game that I get into, there's somebody who's like, are you the real Ammunition? Is that Ammunition? Like, hey, what's up? I like your channel. And when I started seeing that happen, that for me was just my moment of like holy shit.
It's weird, right?
Like, whoa, like people actually, like, you know my name and like you care that I exist. Like, this is so different from my real life where no one cares. This is awesome. It's great.
Yeah, that's what feels so good when people want to watch and when people tune in. And even before I started streaming, I actually played Warcraft 3 and recorded my replays from that, and I actually voiced over it. We did something called an audio commentary where you had to queue up the replay as well as queue up the sound file at the same time. So that's really old school, but when people really like watching that, I was like, oh man, this is so awesome that people want to see more of me. So that's what fuels me.
You are my spirit animal by mentioning having to queue up the audio files, by the way. That's just,
RWAs, man, replay with audio.
I feel like you guys all have these really touching stories, but the most standout moment in my air quotes career is I had a video go super viral because I called Justin Bieber the hottest girl in gaming. This is why I don't watch my old videos. Questionable choices that I make. So obviously the content creation space, if you've been in it for any amount of time, we've gone through Adpocalypse, and we've gone through Justin TV and then Twitch, and then all these changes that are being made, and there's always some scandal and uproar and whatnot. And what do you think the future holds for online gaming content creation?
I think it's bright. I think we're in the future, and
Esports.
yeah, esports is like that's all I was watching Overwatch yesterday. I think it's just I think it's constantly evolving, and you need to be on it, like we've been saying all day. Just constantly evolve with the content. You never know what's going to happen, and just learn to grow with the industry. For sure.
Yeah, I think if my streaming career doesn't exist forever, at least video games will exist forever. And since that was what I started with, my passion for video games, I feel like there will always be a place for me somewhere in the industry. So that's like the most terrifying question I think that streamers ever get is like, do you think streaming will exist in 5 years? Or what do you think streaming will look like? And it's just like, it's such a brand new career path that no one really has like a solid idea of like, when you're getting into, like an IT path, you're like, okay, I'm gonna be here, and then I'll be here, and then I'll get promoted to here in about like 3 years or something. But I think it's just being willing to diversify and remember that at the root of everything is your passion for video games, and video games will always exist as far as I know.
Yeah, at the beginning of the show, Panzer, you asked, how do you describe what you do to everyone? So the good news is I was actually a tutor for a little bit while I was doing a bit of the streaming, and I got to see today's youth, and I got to see what the future is. So I got to see it. And the future is really good because all of those people, they know how to do electronics. They actually know what Twitch is. They know what YouTube is. So it's only going to grow, and it's really easy to explain to the younger generations and newer generation what we do, and it's definitely on the up and up.
just with all the advice, like the advice we were giving earlier about how to break into it, how to get started, and again, Sean, you just keep having good advice, so I keep referencing it. But have a plan, create a show, come up with something. There's so many different flavors of content you can create for just the same game. Think about how many different Overwatch shows there are, how many different Warcraft streams and shows there are, and they are unique. There will be similar through lines, but for the most part, they are all unique. And I still, to this day, will tune into some new show I had never seen before and be so impressed by how they have decided to craft their content that it will not end. This not going anywhere because there's infinite number of possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, the industry's growing so much. I mean, like, first of all, on the business side, it's really nice that, 6, 7 years ago, you do YouTube, so hard to even value a pre-roll ad on that sort of thing, and more, not just the pre-roll ads, getting more value from advertisers, but also just having personalities and streamers promote products, because that is, I think, way better. I do not like watching ads as much as I like watching someone I care about telling me about a game that they truly enjoy.
Yeah, it's like the old I Love Lucy ads, where at the end of the show, instead of there being an ad, she would be like, smoke these cigarettes. Don't smoke. But it's a long time ago.
Yeah, because it's really nice that there's so many different kinds of games that you do have the choice to work with the games that you really like and to be able to communicate to your audience what's awesome about those particular games. And there's just so many good games coming out. Like 2017, Jesus, 2017 was so good for games. And there's VR coming, and there's AR coming. It's just really exciting. And I expect that it will continue to change a lot as time goes on. But frankly, I feel like, and I'm sure everyone up here feels very, very lucky and very excited.
Yeah, it's been crazy watching the evolution of these platforms because I started on YouTube in 2008 or 9. It's been a long time. And, we've watched the layout change in my old videos. I'm asking you to rate my videos with stars. Stars used to be a thing. And I don't know, it's just crazy seeing how much things have evolved and how much have changed. Like, you didn't used to be able to stream games on Justin TV. And then when it turned into Twitch, if you had your face cam up for too long talking to your audience, you could get banned. That wasn't allowed. You had to stream gameplay. So just watching the evolution of it and watching these platforms change for their creators, and even with like YouTube's AI algorithm, it's nuts. Like, they don't have any control over that. That's a robot doing robot things. I don't understand it because I'm not a robot.
Well, and I think what puts into perspective for me the amount of growth that there is still available on Twitch specifically, because that's like my main thing, is to think about the fact that the like top 5 channels or whatever on Twitch are about 2 million followers. And then you think the top channels on YouTube that are all like 30, like 25, millions of subscribers on YouTube. And the biggest channels on Twitch are still sitting at like 2 million. So I always think about that when I'm just like, man, there's like so much space still for Twitch to grow because there's so many people that want to absorb content on the internet, and that's only getting more and more, as Trump was saying.
And I want to piggyback on something Garrett said about how there's so much availability for niche content. Like, I still think, too, that there's this comic book show called iFanboy, and there's just not a lot of video content about comic books. And I specifically went and sought that out and found this show, and it's great. And there's so many different flavors of different games that I'm really excited to see all the different dimensions of people exploring games.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a lot of evolution, and there's still so much space. And you were talking about the number of followers and the number of subscribers that people have. And over the course of YouTube, I've watched these top whatever people change so many times because it's grown so much. And I think an important thing when you're getting into content creation is to really, really try not to be jealous of people. It can be really hard when you see someone put up a video that like they clearly spent 30 seconds making, and you maybe put 40 or 50 or 80 hours into a video and it gets however many views, and then you watch this stupid video that somebody who has 1 billion subscribers puts up and it gets 1 billion views. And I think it's important that you remember it's not really a competition. Like, it's so important that you are not talking badly about other streamers or other YouTubers or other creators, and that you are lifting people up and that you're praising them on their success and not being salty about it.
One of my favorite podcasters is actually on the stage following this. Scott Johnson always says,
I love him.
Don't compare yourself to people on the internet.
Yeah.
And what I add to that is get inspired by people on the internet. Go and enjoy it, but don't get freaked out when they have 10 times the views that you have. Let it inspire you. You go out there and let it fuel you and get excited about it. Don't get bummed out that you're not where they are.
Yeah, you've got to remember that everyone's path to success is not the same path. Everyone has their own, and some people's paths are rockier and more difficult, and some people's are not. And just because someone is currently successful doesn't mean that they will be forever, including yourself. But there are streamers that I watched when I was, very first getting started who don't even stream anymore. And they just kind of, faded away, and I don't even know what happened. They're gone now.
Yeah.
And they were the people that I was like, man, they're so successful, I want to be like them. And so it's just, you never know what life is going to be like, and you can't waste your time comparing yourselves to other people, because it's not worth it.
Well, there's always going to be someone who's in your eyes better than you. You're never going to reach a point where you're like, I'm the best. And if you do reach that point, sit down.
Unless you're Dr. Disrespect.
Exactly.
Because then you're the two-time.
He is the face of Twitch.
Yeah.
So we're getting close on time. We have about 5 minutes left. Does everybody want to take a little while to say where people can find you online? Any last words of advice? Shameless self-promotion? Cool. Thoughts on Blizzcon?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this Blizzcon has just been absolutely amazing. This is the first year I've ever been on a panel, so thank you for watching me be up here being anxiety-ridden human shell. I have a lot of podcasts about various Blizzard products, and you can find them all at my website, amove.tv. It's just amove.tv, and I'm Garrett Art on Twitter. And just thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, and last word of advice: just start making.
Yeah.
And make again next week and the week after that.
And you'll get better.
Yeah.
like your first video will be garbage. Well, maybe it won't, but it probably will.
No, it's gonna, yeah, 100%.
And then like
Yeah.
the next one will be like maybe 10% better. And then the next one will
Yeah.
be maybe 10% better than that. And then, well, you're never going to be satisfied, but.
Yeah.
You're always going to be your own worst critic,
Yeah.
and that's okay, because it means next week when you come back to it, you're actively trying to make it better.
One thing I would say, if any of you want to come up and say hi, I mean, I have to go to another panel and then I'm free for a lot of the rest of the day, but please come say hi. Please, it's so great to actually see you and meet you, because what I do is I sit alone in a room, turn a stream on, the number goes up, the number goes down, and then I'm done and I haven't talked to a person. And when you come up and say hi, it's really
doesn't
wonderful.
exist.
So I'd be thrilled to meet anyone, time permitting. If you want to find my stuff, just look up Day 9 TV. That's one good bit of advice. Make sure you have the same name everywhere you can on social media. Because I used to be livestream.com/StriderDoom. That's a great combo in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I still smurf under that name. But it wound up being really hard to find, so that sort of cohesion is really important. And I hope you all continue to play more video games.
Well, I just started streaming last year, so it might give hope to people that want to get into the industry. If you see me on the floor, definitely ask me any questions. Pretty open for anything like that. You can find me at Bloodshed everywhere, BLUDDSHED, because I wanted the same spelling across all platforms, so yeah.
That's hard these days because like everything is just it's like username taken, username taken.
Yeah. I was like,
How many
I'm gonna
numbers?
spell it weird.
Yeah. My name is Ammunition. I am on Twitch pretty much every single day for like 6 to 8 hours a day. I play a lot of video games.
Listen to that applause. You're
sorry?
so popular.
I didn't hear-
applause.
Oh, the applause. Yeah, those people over there are like, that's Ann over there somewhere. Yeah, you can find me, Ammunition, everywhere, and I'm going to be running around. If you guys see me, also say hello. And my last bit of advice would be passionate, be kind, and be brave.
Cool. I'm Trump SC. You can find me as Trump SC on all the platforms. And my big takeaway advice from this is just get started. It does not have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be good to begin with. If you like gaming, then why not give it a shot? This could lead to something great, and I think it has led to something great for a lot of people, including myself. I love talking about this stuff, and I'm happy, like Day 9 says, to talk with any of you about it in further detail. I happen to be free the entire time afterwards, so hit me up. I always love talking with everyone who attends Blizzcon and meeting everyone.
Awesome.
So we have 2 minutes left, so this will be long-winded, this last part. Yeah, I'm really excited that we got to do this panel. I think this was amazing. I learned things because I'm pretty new into streaming. I primarily do YouTube type stuff, so I thought this was really insightful, and I appreciate all of the advice you gave to everybody and the advice that I'm going to take myself. But thank you so much to all of you guys who came out here. It's so early.
Yeah, you have a lot of options of BlizzCon content, so I think probably comfortably speak for everyone that we're really glad that you stopped by the panel and took the time out of your day to be here.
Yes, thank you so much. If you're interested in any of my content, I'm trade chat all over the internet. I'm sure Blizzard's real pleased about that. And you can find us walking around the convention. If you're watching on the virtual ticket, we really appreciate it. And we can't
Shout out to the online
Yeah,
people.
woo,
Hi, online people.
We love the internet. But thank you guys all for listening to us kind of ramble on about our passion for the last hour. So we cannot wait to see what you guys are creating online. Tweet us, tag us, let us know it's there. Have a great BlizzCon. Stay safe. Be good to each other. We gotta go now.